Hey guys, it's Julian King. I'm a singer, songwriter, dancer, engineer from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Welcome to my life. I was in church singing Shackles Off My Feet. I had a solo, but it was like really bad because I wasn't really the best singer when I was like young. I don't have the Jasmine Sullivan, Michael Jackson story, which is why I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I got better over time, but shackles off my feet so I can dance. Ask anybody in my family. And boy, did I take the shackles off. So I had really only been doing like the arts in church. So like I said, I was at Masterman, shout out to Masterman. And I was going to stay there for high school, and then I was going to go to Columbia and study marine biology, all that. But around 7th, 8th grade, I did a musical. It was The Wizard of Oz. And then from there, I was like, oh, I think I should probably do this. So I went to Kappa. And then at Kappa was when I really got to get my feet wet. Like I got to really play in the sandbox and see if I liked it or not. And then that translated over into college. I went to the University of the Arts. And then from there, it was a wrap. By then I was like, okay, well, no shade, you gotta do this, Julian. Like I didn't already pay for it to like be here in college. But it was around college that I started like meeting the people in the city through the Grammy U chapter and the Philadelphia Recording Academy chapter. And from there, the rest is kind of history. I started off as a song referencer, AKA I used to reference songs to my friends. Shout out to Typewriter. I did that for about 3-4 years because once I was doing that, the labels started asking like, yo, who's this singing, who's this singing? And then that's how I ended up at the labels. I ended up at Atlantic, I ended up at Island Def Jam when it was a label back then. And then from there, 2015, 2016, 2017, I went to China, came back 18, jumped straight into the Motown show at Hard Rock, jumped straight into The Voice. And then from The Voice, I dropped Made in China and then Takeout. And then had a few like viral moments for nothing that had to do with singing, and then was featured in some magazines, and then here we are.
What do you feel like was your like first big opportunity, like getting your name out there?
My first big opportunity was probably in high school. I started doing the Thanksgiving Day Parade every year. I actually started the year before high school. And then once I got into high school, it was like a no-brainer. I was doing that. And then I was doing it even after high school. And that was kind of like my first big like taste of television and big production and productions with budgets and being around celebrities and late night rehearsals and studios and all of that good jazz. So shout out to Miss Davis. If it wasn't for her, I probably would have never met the 6 ABC people or the Disney people. So shout out to you. La Diva Davis was technically my dance teacher, but she ended up being like a godmom to me. She actually was over the dance department, and people were trying to figure out why I wasn't a dance major because I was always with the dancers, yet I was a vocal major. My vocal teacher, she was Caucasian, but Ms. Davis was black. So I naturally, I gravitated to my vocal teacher, but naturally I gravitated to my dance teacher. And it started turning into like relationship, and then it started turning into like relationship plus mentorship, and then it just started turning into like someone that I looked forward to seeing every day, because I also wasn't really the closest with my own mother at that time. So in high school, I was always with her. I was always going to rehearsals that I had no business being at, or being in meetings that I had no business being in. And she kind of like really helped shape what I was doing and what I felt was the limit for me in high school at that time. Had it not been for her, like I said, I would have never met the 6 ABC people. I would have never been in the parade. I would have never been in the Cherry Blossom Parade. I would have never had private auditions with Disney people. Yeah, like I took that loss really hard last Thanksgiving, but I was really grateful because I was able to honor her in a very special way. I didn't perform at her actual homegoing, but in the parade, I was just doing a lot. The opening number, Greatest Showman, the Kappa numbers, that was a beautiful way for me to like say goodbye to her. Yeah, it's crazy. Shout out to La Diva Davis. Like I miss that woman so much. And we actually kind of looked alike. People have always gravitated to my gift. It's what I actually believe was the thing that really got people like in this city knowing who I was. My look has changed over the years. I used to have really, really long hair like down my back. Like my My mom's wedding photos, I had a fresh press, giving very much. But over the years, I was really just a young kid that was just so eager to like be in productions. And I love show business. I love everything about it. Getting ready for a show, doing a show, even after a show. And so I've never really had any problem navigating my voice, or like even over the time it took me to kind of find a sound, I was having fun with it. I think one of the struggles that I currently have, which I don't think I've actually ever expressed to anyone, I struggle with sometimes what to give and how much to give of it. I'm a very versatile human being. I feel like my masculine and my feminine coexist beautifully. Neither of them like bully each other or one outweighs the other. And I'm constantly thinking about how do I still remain true to who I am, but also make sure that outside of my communities, that people who don't know who I am or anything about me, that I am still digestible and still they can receive me. Because my goal is to not only be a beacon in my communities, but also to touch the other communities, which is why I work so hard with the music, so that it doesn't sound one way. It's just good music that anybody can listen to, because that's how I'm gonna reach the world. When I think of people that inspire me, I think of the Clark sisters, and I would give an honorary shout out to Curated too. But they're icons to me, because back in the day, being black, trying to achieve what they were achieving from Detroit was not an easy task. On top of the fact that it was 4 of them, and it was gospel music. All of them are forces to be reckoned with individually, and together cohesively they are even more monstrous. I am a fan of the way that they play with notes. I am a fan of the way that they always are oiling their ranges. I'm a fan of the way that they can take something. In music theory, we call it theme and variation, where they will take a theme and give you their variation of it, and it's always just so pungent and so on point. And at the end of the day, they're also still very classy people. They carry themselves with such grace and poise, and I aspire to be like that. I don't necessarily aspire to be a woman or a first lady of a church, but I aspire to be like that. Places that I am inspired by are very calm and serene places in nature. That could be something as simple as out in the backyard, sitting in the grass in the morning dew at like 5:45, 6 a.m. just like. Or I wrote some of my best music by the beach alone. I love large bodies of water. I'm an Aquarius, I'm with the water bearers, so like being around water excites me. Nature excites me, which is also the thing that I wanted to talk about that inspires me too, are animals. Sometimes I'll sit out back and I'll just watch. Being in those places, one, they allow me to take my book bag off and just like breathe, but it also is like a calm recharge. But for real, I feel like most artists are like this, but I can find inspiration anywhere. It can be something as simple as the pitch of the elevator hitting the floor, or it could be the way that the rain is hitting my, whatever that thing is called in the car, the sunroof. It could be the way someone's chewing gum. It depends on what my mood is and where I'm at today.
What is something you wish you heard when you were growing up?
I think who I'd hoped to be was like always me. I just didn't really trust that, even though I might not have had the evidence to support it at the time. And now looking back over my life, who I am right now is just a 30-year-old version of who I've actually always been. There was a time during college, maybe towards the end of high school and college, where, you know, I'm hitting the peak of my puberty and I'm turning into a young adult, and then from there, because of the way the music industry was at the time, like I kind of was like trying to find myself and was kind of just listening to the counsel that was being told to me at the time, which was not wrong counsel. I mean, this was 2011, 2012. The music industry was way different. Yet, here I am, and I've arrived at this person right now, and it's very similar to who I was when I was younger. I was very bold, I was very bright, I was very colorful as a person, I just did not care. I didn't care who was looking at me, who was looking at my hair, my boots, my this, my that. Like I had such a strength, and especially in high school, being surrounded by like my vocal teacher and my dance teacher, and I had so many adults that respected my gift and who I was, that like I was walking with authority. That confusion kind of didn't come until around college, when I was around things that I just were never around before, or when I started really diving into the industry for the first time, and you know, people didn't know what to do with me. I still had, my hair was still down here, but right before I went to my first label meeting, you know what I mean? Yeah, I would tell my younger self, like, just trust in that, because that's actually the thing that is already going to separate you from anyone else. And because of the way that technology has shifted since my childhood, I don't think anyone was kind of ready for what it is today. I remember my first Instagram picture was me and my friends playing Uno. Like, it was the deck of Uno cards. And now everything just has to be so thought out and colored and filtered and touched up and this and that. Just trust in who you are. And that goes for anybody who might be watching and listening. Like, you don't even have to try to be anything, because who you are, it just naturally comes out. And so for some people, that's Mariah Carey. For some people, it's Whoopi Goldberg. Both of them are still as valuable. You understand? We don't need 50 million Mariah Careys. Yeah, my answer still rings true almost every time. The year I was in China, that was the moment my life changed. Normally when you're away from your family and you maybe go to spend the night over your friend's house, it's like, all right, bitch, y'all got soda? Or like, what time is your bedtime? Like, you know, you try to risk it a little bit. But when I got to China, I didn't feel like that. I just felt very like, okay, Julian. I felt like it was a chance to start over. I took too long to tell my job that I wanted to come back. I was a dean of students. At the time, I was supposed to be moving to LA. By the time I went back to the job, they were like, bro, we gave it away. You didn't tell us. So I lost my job. But I had to explain it that way, because I didn't lose my job. I lost my job. I had just broken up with my boyfriend. I had just let go of my production team. I had fired my management. My lease was up on my apartment. It was getting very much that. And I took that job. I'm an air sign, so you don't tell an air sign, pack a bag, we driving to Atlanta right now, because we probably already got the bag packed, you know what I mean? And mentally, my bags were already packed. When I got to China, I told myself, Julian, you could be anybody you want right now, and no one would know, because no one has any preconceived notion of who you are, what you're supposed to be doing, who your family is, how you're supposed to act, where you come from, anything. And so I kind of just started being. I wasn't doing, I was just freely being. And I started noticing that, like, I was like, oh, I didn't have to tell people, like, oh, I date guys. I was just doing it. And for real, like, a lot of it, I didn't know what I was doing, mind you, because also I'm dealing with people who are like, for real, African and Russian and Chinese and Korean and Arabian and Middle Eastern, and like, a lot of it was like don't think too much, just do it. And I did anything I wanted. I adopted a puppy from the shelter, and I was volunteering at the shelter twice a week. I was hosting spades nights with all the black people I could find. I was taking dance classes that were like 45 minutes to an hour away from my hotel. I was doing things that, you know, 25-year-olds do. But that year was the freedom that I felt like I needed. Because by the time I got back, everyone around me could sense that something was different, but no one really knew what it was. And I just came back with such a profound confidence about myself. Like, that confidence that people see on that video from me, from The Voice, singing All Time Low, like, that wasn't really a front or anything. Like, I had been singing that song for 3 years straight by the time that aired on NBC. Before, I really was at an all-time low. But when I got back, I got off that plane, I had a 12-hour layover in Los Angeles, and I was at an all-time high, pun intended. I was so happy to be back and so happy to be so sure of who I was that nothing mattered. And it was probably the most incredible year. Like, my year in China ended with like me in a low-key, high-key relationship with this Brazilian boy, but like torn between this Chinese boy too. It was like weird. And then I came back and I had that moment with my brothers in Los Angeles, and I came back and I just reflected, and it is still, first of all, it's the reason why I have all these tattoos on my body. And when anyone asks me if there's a time in my life that I will probably never forget, it was that one. I turned 25. I met Jessie J at the airport. We lived down the street from each other. I met the most incredible people one of whom I was actually talking to today via text message. Like, I miss my friends and I'm so grateful for that time. I'm so grateful for those people that were in my life at that time. That year trumped anything that I'd ever done professionally. Like, I've been in Will Smith's music video, I've sung background for the girls, I've done this show, I've done this, but that year was like, that spoke to who I was as a person. That's why it's like a lot easier for me to be who everyone thinks I am because of that year. And if I had not spent that year in China, I know I would be a completely different person right now. So shout out to all my friends in China. Ni hao. One of the biggest lessons I feel like I've learned in my adulthood is that everybody you see around you, and even those you see that you might not know, everybody low-key is still trying to figure this shit out. I haven't even gotten to the TikTok, Instagram, all of this shit. But like, people in life, we just all trying to figure it out. We're trying to unlearn a lot of what we learned growing up. We're trying to relearn who we are. We're trying to be more respectful and tolerant and accepting of things that are not like us and people who are not like us. And we're trying to bridge the gap between our parents and grandparents' generation and us. And like, it's a lot of internal work that I think that we don't acknowledge enough. We kind of just keep going with life, but we all just trying to figure it out. And I would implore everyone to just be a bit kinder to self. Take time for self. I take plenty of time for self. And honestly, like, for me, my motto is I take it week by week, not even day by day. I can't do day by day. That would cause my anxiety to like really be up there. But week by week is like, okay, whew, what are my goals for this week? Let me achieve this week. Let me be this week, because next week is next week. You know what I mean? I think we're just, everything is like this. Everyone is moving so fast, and I don't know why. Just like the pandemic, all that shit could be taken away, and we all just gotta be still. I actually miss the pandemic, by the way, but I go back to my original point. Be kinder to self. And just know that, like, people don't really talk about it, but we all going through the same thing at the same time. Take your time, trust who you are. At some point in your life, you'll get to the place where you accept that what your life is, that's what it's gonna be. Versus you living your life with a bunch of disappointment of thinking like, oh my God, I wanted to be Spike Lee. And because you weren't Spike Lee, you thought your life had no purpose. And that is that complete opposite. We don't need to. We just need one of you. Hey guys, it's Julian King, and I'm from Philly. Last time, and take 4.